Racing to the 2021 Belmont Stakes, but first let's take a look at the tight turns of Pimlico, the 146th running of the Preakness Stakes, Baltimore, Maryland, and we did have a slight upset. Rombauer at a little over 11 to 1, almost 12 to 1, winning the Preakness Stakes. And kind of an interesting race from several fronts. Let's start off with the pace. I think the biggest question mark going into this race was who was going to have the lead at the half-mile pole. Some people thought it might be Medina Spirit. I thought it would be Midnight Bourbon. I thought they were going to kind of go on the engine. And then there was still a little bit of hope out there. I think that Concert Tour could set the pace in this Preakness Stakes. But out of the gate, Medina Spirit got an aggressive ride by John Velasquez. He took the lead, and Medina Spirit was hounded kind of just on the outside of him. Did not get as easy of a trip as he did in the Kentucky Derby by Midnight Bourbon. Midnight Bourbon kind of put his head in front going into the turn, and then starting to make his move was Rombauer. He swung to the outside and ended up winning by 3.5 lengths. Now the top three finishers were Rombauer, Midnight Bourbon, and Medina Spirit. Midnight Bourbon ran evenly, had kind of a rough trip in the Kentucky Derby. He definitely seemed to be the horse with the steam on him. He received a lot of betting support, was favored most of the betting, and Midnight Bourbon ended up going off the second favorite in the race. Surprisingly, Concert Tour, but I don't know, the way he ran, he ended up going off at 7 to 2. And then we had a bunch of horses kind of bunched in between 11 to 1 and 13 to 1. Kind of some silliness on the odds board for the second straight year. Ram, who probably should have been 100 to 1, was 12 to 1. Keep Me in Mind somehow was only 13 to 1. And even Risk Taking, whose speed figures were a little bit on the lower side, he was taking some money at 12 to 1, and Crowded Trade at 8 to 1. So kind of a tote board that didn't want to give in to Bob Baffert with his two horses, so they kind of gravitated towards Midnight Bourbon. And then there was a bunch of horses kind of in that middle between 8 and 12 to 1. The Beyer boys have spoken. Speed numbers are out. We have a Beyer speed figure for Rombauer of 102. That's a new career top for Rombauer. And we kind of said in some of our pre-videos that it looked like he might be sitting on a top. He ran against the bias and race flow on the Bluegrass Day. That day it was all front runners. Kamari dug in, Essential Quality and Highly Motivated dug in. And a few other horses did really well on the front end. And a few of them have come back and not run quite as well. So I think that bias definitely and race flows faced some of the front runners, and definitely Rombauer showed most speed that day in the Bluegrass. Had a nice little break. They rested up, really spaced out his races between Golden Gate and the Bluegrass, and now from the Bluegrass to the Preakness. So the early talk is that he will go to the Belmont Stakes. Now this field did get spread out again. Medina Spirit, who was third, was 5.5 lengths back. Crowded Trade, who finished fifth, was 12.5 lengths back. Top five finishers separated by 12.5 lengths. So I think overall on the top three finishers by 5.5 lengths. Pretty fair surface, it seemed like, Friday and Saturday at Pimlico. Some horses were closing in that Maryland Sprint. Maybe a touch of an inside speed bias on both days, or the rail just did well. But horses could swing out. Horses were closing late. There wasn't kind of that treadmill effect or merry-go-round effect in some of these races, and I think an even surface played more into Rombauer's hands. For Medina Spirit, you know, the 2-week turnaround was going to be the question. That was the question. He was gutted in that Kentucky Derby all the way from the stretch turn all the way through the stretch by Mandaloun, and then late Hot Rod Charlie and Essential Quality. So that was just a gutted effort from Medina Spirit. 2-week turnaround, no official workouts, and you know, this time around, they just didn't allow him to get that easy lead as he got in the Kentucky Derby. Even though the fractions were moderate, he was being hounded by Midnight Bourbon. Of course, a Homebred for Rombauer, so not sold at auction. Nice mare. She's produced three runners now that have won over $100,000. Twirling Candy, first big winner for him. You know, underrated horse. He ran in that synthetic era, ran on the turf. He also ran some big races. 7 for 11 lifetime, just under $1 million in career earnings. Now Rombauer, 7 starts, 3 wins, and John and Diane Fredkin, the breeder and owner of Rombauer, for the 2021 Preakness Stakes. Kind of a breakout win. Nice ride for Flavian Prat. Of course, he had moved up to first place via the disqualification of Country House in 2019. Now he gets his first Triple Crown victory without the benefit of the DQ. Nice ride, tipped out, saved some ground early on, went out. I think once he saw that Midnight Bourbon was going to do some of that dirty work, and then even midway through the race, Francisco Diana kind of made a little bit of a run. I think that allowed Rombauer to relax. And the interesting thing is Twirling Candy was kind of a head case. He was always hot before races and kind of got worked up and whatever. Of course, he's by Candy Ride, but Rombauer definitely is calm and cool, really been training well lately, and really seemed to be on the muscle the week of the Preakness post-parade. A nice, good look in the post-parade, so you kind of thought he was going to run a big effort here. Next up, we go to the Big Sandy, the Belmont Stakes. Wide sweeping turns, distance of 1.5 miles, and we've got some new shooters there, including Rebels Romance. What did you think of the Preakness Stakes? Rombauer, Medina Spirit, and some early thoughts on the Belmont Stakes. Smash that like button. That'll help me out, get some more views of the channel. So leave a comment or smash that like button as we get you ready for the Belmont Stakes.